talk about a few of the highlights of the relationship between the United States and Slovakia, which is really very strong and profound. First of all, they have troops in Afghanistan. They're very, they took the caveats off, so they have special forces, EOD teams. EOD stands for Explosive Ordnance Disposal, which is really the only team outside the United States and Canada that has the fields, these EOD teams. And they played a very critical role last October outside Kandahar, a base in Kandahar, where they neutralized a bomb that would have killed a lot of people. So these guys are real heroes. And by the way, one of the congressmen who visited, I told him that story, and he put that story in the congressional record. That was Bill Schuster from Pennsylvania, who's coming back to visit. We've had a lot of congressional delegations, which is great because I'm able to use them to show how important we Americans feel the relationship with Slovakia is. Continuing on the military relationship, then we just had General Repaz, who's the Special Forces Commander in Europe, come to Slovakia and meet with the Chief of Defense. General Herling, the Commander of U.S. Army Europe. So the United States has a very high appreciation of the role that our Slovak allies are playing in NATO. The other reason that Slovakia is important is because there's a Schengen border with Ukraine on the east. And so recently we concluded an anti-nuclear smuggling agreement, which is I think this is a very underappreciated issue in our time, is the whole issue of nuclear proliferation. And the Slovaks are playing a very important role in that, detecting trucks that come across the border. And they're very sophisticated. They're so good that the United States works with them to train other countries in that field. I think that one of the major dynamics of the relationship between the United States and Slovakia is that if you look at where Slovakia has come in a very short period of time, 22 years, but really, to be fair, you could really trace it just from 1998 after the Metsiar period, because as we all know, it kind of went downhill a little bit under Metsiar, and then it started going up in 1998. So in 14 years, up until the 2008 crisis, it was literally the fastest growing country in Europe economically. And they got into NATO, they got into the EU. So this is a great, very successful story of a country in that region. There are a lot of other countries in that region, in the Eastern Partnership, in the Western Balkans. We'd like to take the same path. And things have slowed, as you all have read in the papers, I'm sure, the whole EU integration has slowed down a little bit with the financial crisis. But we hope that Europe will enjoy more integration after they get over this financial crisis. And we hope that these other countries will follow the great example of Slovakia. But the point is that the Slovaks actually take a very proactive role in working with these countries like Montenegro, Serbia, to encourage them to join the EU, which is a very complicated process, and they have a very pragmatic mentorship program. And they even are, there's an organization called the Community of Democracies that works with aspiring democracies to help them along the same path. And Slovakia has actually taken on Tunisia as a country that they're working with to talk about security sector reform, talk about democratic reform. So this is a very important role that they're playing, because the way Tunisia goes could tip, it's very important for the whole region. We have, the State Department, we have a program called the Emerging Donors Challenge Fund, where we will match funds that the Slovaks spend on their NGOs and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on these kinds of programs. For if they'll apply and they say, we're doing this in Macedonia or Georgia or whatever, we match those funds, which is, I think, is a great program, because I think that Slovakia in many ways is so better suited than, frankly, we are to work with some of these countries, because they've come through this experience themselves, and they can talk about it, and they're very, I would say, modest about, they're modest in sharing their transitional experience. They point out the what they did right and wrong. So I think it's a great program. Under the last administration of Prime Minister Radicova, she brought Slovakia into the Open Government Partnership, which is a program that was co-founded by the United States and Brazil to introduce open government around the world. And to her credit, Prime Minister Radicova saw this as a real signature legacy for her and her administration. I'm very happy that Prime Minister Fico currently is continuing that program. And basically what it is that each country that signs on as a member of that presents an action plan where they're going to introduce more transparency into their government processes so that the citizens can see what their government is doing. The United States is part of it too. We have our own action plan to improve our access of information to citizens. Interestingly, Slovakia, just for the first time ever, sold bonds in the United States for the country very successfully. The new Minister of Finance, Peter Kaiser, and his deputy came to the United States maybe a couple of weeks ago and had a roadshow in New York and San Francisco, and for the first time ever had a successful sale of bonds. As you all probably know, there's a very lively American commercial presence in Slovakia. There are about 125 American companies, very active. US Steel is the largest private employer in the entire country, next to the government, which is the largest private employer. And they're in the eastern part of the country, in a town called Košice, which is the second largest city in Slovakia. And they're a great corporate citizen because they give back to the community, they build a hockey stadium, and they're very generous, as I say, corporate citizen in the town. So I'd like to conclude my talk with two words of encouragement. And one is to encourage the Slovak American community here to seize the opportunity in 2015, which is not too far away, to celebrate the 100th anniversary, the centenary of the Cleveland Agreement, which I think is not well known, at least in Slovakia, and not particularly well known in the certainly in the United States. And I think it's important to recall this history to show the strength of the ties between our two countries. And the second thing I want to encourage you to do is Mayor Potocnik has come a long way to Cleveland to introduce himself and to talk to key leaders around the city. So if any of you have any ideas for projects, cultural or business or in any field that you feel would be fruitful, come to us after the session, and we'd like to talk to you to see if we can get some of these things going. So thank you so much for your hospitality.